It's been over a year since Marvel announced Children of the Atom, and the initial launch trailer wasn't very well received, to say the least. It's accumulated over 230,000 views, which doesn't sound that impressive considering the Marvel channel has over 15 million subscribers, and the like to dislike ratio speaks volumes with 2,000 likes to 39,000 dislikes. So it's no surprise that when the book was finally released, the reception sounded something like this. But there is one question that looms in the air. Was this book worth the wait? And yes, that's a rhetorical question. For those of you who are aware of Vita Ayala's work or the current state of the comic book industry overall, you know that the answer is a definite no. And how could it be anything else when we were told that Vita Ayala spent weeks developing the background of these characters and came up with such fascinating things, like one of them having a TikTok and another having a fitness Insta. But I digress. Without further ado, here is X-Men Children of the Atom. The book begins with an appearance from the Hell's Bells. Don't be surprised if you haven't heard about these characters. They used to appear in X Factor back in the day, and they've been around for quite some time, but they're not what you would exactly call popular. Back in the day, they used to look like this. Now they look like this because reasons, and they're depowered, so they're using guns. Anyway, they're up to no good, and who do you think comes to stop them? Why, the Discount X-Men, of course. And much like their well-thought-out backgrounds, these characters are as lazy as they appear to be. Gender and race-swapped versions of the original X-Men with some variations or tweaks to their powers, and creative names like Cherub, Cyclops Lass, Marvel Guy, and Daycrawler. And for those of you who don't know, a cherub is essentially one of the many variations of angels that exist in Christianity. So not even their names are original. But anyway, they fight the bad guys, they win, surprise surprise, and then they teleport out to be intercepted by everyone's favorite X-Men, Pixie, Magma, and Maggot. And of course, the X-Men immediately compliment them and praise them, because that's what happens in these type of books with these type of characters. Fanfic inserts and so forth and so on usually get complimented, immediately get recognition, or are immediately liked for no apparent reason other than just because. The X-Men also ask them why they didn't answer the call to go to Krakoa, which is essentially a mutant nation island that's a safe haven, and that implies that the Discount X-Men aren't really mutants. There's an underhanded comment about the police, and then we're whisked away to a different location where the actual X-Men are having a debate. We see Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Storm having a discussion about their unofficial fan club, and none of these characters behave like themselves. And here's something else that these books fail entirely: consistency. These characters have existed for decades and they have well-established personalities, but that doesn't matter. And within this particular book, things are so bad that characters even contradict themselves within the span of a few pages. They have their discussion if they should go pick up the cosplayers or not, and I have a feeling that these pages were added to the book just to add some credibility by showing the quote-unquote real X-Men. And before you know it, we're shown the next scene, which of course includes the obligatory white people be racist part. One of the students makes a comment about how the mutants are building an army and how the medicines they're sending are not what they appear to be. And in true current comic book fashion, our hero confronts him with the best argument of all, calling him a small-minded bigot. There's something you need to take into consideration at this point, which is something that Vita Ayala clearly didn't know about, forgot about, or just didn't care about, either one of which is bad. In the current Marvel continuity, mutants have retreated to an island nation established for them and them alone. They've told the world governments that they will give them life-extending medicine if they play ball with what they want, and they have portals that allow them to go pretty much anywhere they want in the world without asking permission or being invited. Portals that only they can go through. Now, imagine for a second the biggest jackass you know. Imagine that person having the ability to read your thoughts, to be able to pass through walls, have laser vision, be able to turn anything into icicles, and so forth and so on. How would you feel about that? And mutant powers aren't selectively given to good people, so it's not a real stretch of the imagination to think that maybe, just maybe, someone who's not that nice has a dangerous mutant power. So let's recap. An isolated nation full of superpowered beings with superior technology, making demands of world leaders, and the ability to go anywhere they please at any given time. How is that not a cause for concern? And all of this is supposed to be okay because mutants were prosecuted. So once you think about it, despite the dude's tone, he may actually have a point and his concerns could very well be valid. But of course that doesn't matter. Things like consistency, things like having flashed out characters, these aren't important in comics, right? Anyway, they get called the worst and we move on. Now, allegedly there have been some rewrites for this book, and this appears to be one of them, because no matter what's going on in the text, it's pretty clear that Discount Cyclops has a thing for her best friend. Just look at her. The way Discount Cyclops is staring, you know that look. If she was made out of chocolate, she'd be melting right now. We get a little bit of a scuffle, and then they decide to go to the island, because, sure, why not? They travel to the portal, put on their cosplay outfits, and when they go through... nothing happens, implying that they're actually not mutants. And that's it. 1 year of waiting for a mediocre, forgettable story that's not even laughably bad. It's just boring. You won't care for any of these characters or anything that happens in this book. And it's not just the story, it's the art as well. On some places it's fine, but then there are panels like this. Take a look at Jean, for example. If you take the color off of the page, you're gonna be left with what is essentially an outline for a coloring book. And if you take a look at these panels, you'll see that some of them are essentially the same. And yes, these are different pages, so the good old copy-paste, which not only comes off as cheap, but lazy as well. And for some reason, as has been customarily lately, women are not allowed to have breasts. Discount Cyclops, Jean, Storm, none of them. Not even the bad guys. So I guess if you're a lady with average or larger breasts, you can say that you're not being represented, which is ironic considering all the screeching about diversity, inclusion, and body positivity. In the end, this book is bland, boring, and forgettable, and absolutely inconsequential. Nothing that happens in it matters, and you won't care about any of its characters. But the sad part is that Vita Ayala is actually trying this time, and it appears that this is the best that she can do. But I guess that's what happens when you advertise yourself as queer and brown, and your entire platform is based on your gender, sexuality, and skin color. And you get hired based on those superficial qualities instead of your talent. But don't worry, we're not gonna end this without having at least one good laugh, and it's going to be a well-deserved one. Recently, Vita Ayala posted this tweet: "Support the things you want to see while they're being made instead of waiting until they're gone to mourn them."
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.
Book sales aren't doing so well, are they? This couldn't possibly have any connection with the constant fan bashing, the entitlement, the guilt tripping, the browbeating, and so forth and so on over the past few years, could it? Calling your fans every single buzzword under the sun for the smallest thing, constantly berating and insulting the people that you're supposed to be making content for, pushing your personal ideologies and agendas to the forefront at the expense of the stories and the characters? Nah, that couldn't be it. Or maybe it's the poor quality, mediocre storytelling, full of one-dimensional characters that are essentially walking checklists. Or the subversion and humiliation of iconic characters. Or maybe the worst possible thing that can happen has already happened. The fans are so fed up that they just don't care anymore. Or it's quite possibly a combination of all of the above. And it's not like people haven't been warning you about this for years. And all the outrage on Twitter and all the guilt tripping and browbeating won't change the fact that that's a mediocre book that people just don't like, and they don't intend to spend their hard-earned money on it. On a side note, if Vita spent half the time that she does on Twitter improving her writing skills, she'd probably be a much better writer. Anyway, I'm gonna go watch a documentary about sloths or something, because anything is bound to be more interesting than this book. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'll see you around.